It is the last day of winter in 2024, so in honor of the passing of this season, I thought it fitting to paint the spirit of winter herself. This miniature was primed using Vallejo's German Panzer Grey primer with a texture base of AK Interactive's Lunar Desert before I added a black wash to it. Here I used Mr. Weathering's Multi-Black thinned with solvent, but you can use your preferred wash if you were to follow the steps in this video. As a side note, I'll not be showing the painting of the mistletoe, berries, hair, or the scarf, though the colors used will be listed in a spreadsheet excerpt at the end of this video. This miniature was painted at the same time as a leprechaun in my previous video, and had begun with similar steps, even up to building on a grisaille underpainting with the intention of ending with a simple application of speed paints to finish the miniature off. Unfortunately, I started with too dark of a primer and base layers, that the end result would have been far darker than I intended. Therefore, I end up adding additional highlights towards the end, and this will be shown. With each new layer of highlights, I cover slightly less area, though I stop short of using pure titanium white. I had pictured in my head an almost pastel pinkish purple robe and a faint pastel blue cloak. The moody mauve speed paint I added was definitely not that. I think if the grisaille sketch started with a brighter initial color and if I had thinned the speed paint with more medium, then I may have gotten the result I wanted. The cloak, also too dark, did come out a little closer than what I had imagined than the robes. I already knew at this point that I would be spending more time on this miniature than I initially planned, so I continue forward. For the flesh, I intended a very pale skin, one that would be delicate and easily bruised. I apologize for the loss of focus. I had knocked the camera off center somewhat. I had several hours of footage like this, though for the most part I was able to find bits in focus. This is what the flesh looked like after the Battleship Gray was applied, and pale it definitely is. This would be a good formula for those that were frozen or had drowned. Returning to the cloak, I thinned down Liquitex's bright aqua green and began building up some brighter highlights. This was one of the first major issues I ran into, having not thinned this paint with enough medium to begin with, and then thinning it too much afterwards, so I had to go over every part twice, which then made the value jump too high compared to the shadows. I then tried to fix this by glazing this color over the entire cloak, but now it was entirely too bright. So I had to reapply the speed paint and then start over with the highlights. For this second attempt at highlighting with the bright aqua green, I made sure I got the medium added in a more controllable quantity, and this time I had little trouble adding the highlights as I wanted. This cloak was frustrating at first, but sometimes you just have to bite your tongue and accept that you have to redo sections. This gross failure is inevitable, and the sooner I stop trying to ignore it and approach it appropriately, the sooner I can make real progress. Mercifully, I did not have that same issue with the robe, and I was able to build up several highlights quite smoothly and relatively quickly, clocking in at about 15 to 20 minutes for the first magenta highlight, and then each subsequent highlight taking even less time. I was a little hesitant to start the flesh. I did like the drowned victim look it had, but that's not what I wanted for this miniature. I wanted the spirit of winter to be very pale, but still have a hint of warmth hidden within. She needed to possess the potential dichotomy of cold, frigid mercilessness, as well as being calm, cool, and soothing, akin to the bite of a strong mint. The pink and the off-white colors here built up the pale flesh that I wanted, and glazes of magenta brought just a little bit of that warmth into her hands and cheeks. I almost used glazes of a dark blue, but I'm glad I didn't, as I would have been right back at a drowning victim. And this is the end result. Ultimately, I am happy with how this miniature came out, and having to redo the highlights for the cloak was good practice and a good lesson on making sure I mix my paint properly to ensure that I'm able to control it. For an additional lesson learned, for any grisaille grayscale highlights attempts in the future, I'll need to start brighter, perhaps a 1-to-1 mix of Vallejo's German Panzer Gray and Vallejo's Gray, and highlighting all the way up to pure white. Doing so should allow me to thin the speed paints down even further while maintaining their ability to stain enough of the darker shadows somewhat. And with that, this video will be brought to its inevitable end. I hope you learned something or were inspired to start or expand your own collection. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if you like the content of this video and would like to see more, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm Jim with Working with Miniatures. I'm truly grateful for your time, and I bid you a fond farewell. Until the next video.